in a symbolic gesture that stripped her of her dignity and motherhood. The pain she felt in that moment overshadowed the piercing pain of the stitches in her stomach that bore the evidence of her undying love for her son. Nenye, unable to withstand the humiliation, approached Uche to take her baby from her, when Ejiofor looked her in the eyes and warned that if she ever lays her fingers on his son, he would send her back to her wretched family in the village and make sure that she never sees her son again. Ejiofor told Nenye that he would never allow a woman who grew up in a wretched village to raise his precious son. He said that Uche, his side chick, was more qualified to raise their son because she was more polished and exposed than Nenye. He told Nenye that he was only allowing her to live in his house because of the respect he had for his mother, and that the day Nenye makes it difficult for his side chick to raise his son, he would send her back to the village. Nenye could not risk being sent away. She knew that Ejiofor would not hesitate to send her packing from his house because he had no use of her now that she had birthed his son. So she watched as her husband's side chick cradled her precious baby in her arms. Her husband Ejiofor cared less about how she felt because he only married her to please his old mother who needed a grandchild. He went out that afternoon and returned with a brand new car for his side chick to thank her for agreeing to raise his son. Nenye watched as her husband's side chick jumped up in excitement as she checked out her brand new car, which was worth millions of naira. Nenye had never felt this used in her entire life. She remembered how Ejiofor pretended to be in love with her just to get her to marry him. He continued with his pretense until he realized that she was finally pregnant. It was then that Nenye got to know that Ejiofor got married to her because his mother was desperately in need of a grandchild. Later that night, Ejiofor ordered Nenye to move her things out of his bedroom to the guest room downstairs as Uche was moving into his room with him. Nenye's heart broke as she watched her husband lay on his bed with his mistress as they laughed at her. Her heart broke into a million pieces as she packed all her belongings to the guest room downstairs. Nenye stayed up all night crying as she soaked up her sheets with tears. Her husband was in the arms of a woman who not only came to break her home, but also succeeded in taking her son away from her. Nenye could hear them vividly from her room as their bedroom was right above hers. With each thudding sound, Nenye's heart shattered as she could not bear the thought of her husband with another woman. Suddenly, the cry of her baby traveled down the hallway into her room as she jumped out of her bed and ran towards the cry. Immediately, she remembered her husband's stern warning and stopped as she could not jeopardize her chances of living under the same roof with her son. Sad and disappointed, Nenye returned to her room, broken as she knelt down on the ground to pray. Her heart was so heavy as she did not know what else to do but pray. "Father, please help me," she cried aloud as she poured out her heart to the Lord, asking for a way out. She begged the Lord to reunite her with her son, who they had forcefully taken away from her. She also asked for a friend who would comfort her in times like this as she laid on the floor defeated. By morning, Nenye woke up to realize that she had slept on the floor all night. She headed for the kitchen when she caught sight of her baby alone on the couch. Nenye looked around, but no one seemed to be in sight. So she snuggled him close to her chest as she thanked God for answering her prayer. Nenye spent a few minutes with her son when she suddenly heard Uche approaching. She quickly dropped him back on the sofa and rushed out of the living room like nothing happened. Nenye could not contain her joy as the few minutes she spent with her son felt like a lifetime with him. She sat on her bed with her phone when she received a strange text from an unknown number. It read, "I had a dream last night where I was shown your number and asked to contact you. I am Nkechi. Can I get to know you?" Nenye was so full of excitement as she watched her prayers being answered one after the other. She replied the text quickly and spent hours chatting with her new friend, who seemed to live in a different state. Nkechi was such a good friend to her, who kept Nenye company and was always willing to listen to her rants. They shared their experiences, and soon Nenye found herself happy again. For days, Nenye looked out for opportunities to hold her son in her arms again. She missed him so much and was feeling so low, so she decided to text Nkechi to ask what she could do, and Nkechi advised her to plead